judges. Because you can have the best body in the world, train really hard, we all do, but if your entire package isn't fully put together, then it's going to hurt you and you won't do as well, because everything matters. So when it comes to your tan, when it comes to your suit, when it comes to your hair, your makeup, your confidence, how you carry yourself, eye contact, all of that matters and will play a factor into your placing and how you do on stage. So to first start out, we'll talk a little bit about the look when it comes to tanning, hair, and makeup. So the tan is extremely important to highlight your physique, of course. So you have to make sure that your tan is, one, I recommend always going with either the tanning sponsor of the company, because you want your tan to match everybody else on stage. You want to make sure it's the right color. But in order to highlight the physique you've worked so hard for, you want to make sure that it's a certain type of tan, and you prep your skin for that tan really well. So prepping your skin involves exfoliating, lotioning, getting rid of all the hair that you have on your body, and I mean all of the hair that you have on your body, so that you can have that tan adhere to your skin well, and everything will highlight your physique better. Because, again, if you have a great physique, but if your tan is off, then it might be splotchy, it might be the wrong color, it's not going to highlight your physique, show the muscle, show the shape that you are trying to show.
Yeah, and all of this can't start the week of the show. You have to be doing this now. It's a good habit to get into now, especially the shaving, the little tiny blonde hairs on your arms, everywhere. That's going to take time to get all of those off, and to also have your skin acclimate to being shaved head to toe. So this is something you want to be doing now, no matter how far out. I do it year round. It also looks better, and you will notice when it comes to makeup, everything is going to just lay a lot better on the skin this way. So start this process now with exfoliating, dry brushing. You know, Nair is good for getting rid of the little hairs, but you do want to shave as well, because that's a form of exfoliating.
And whether your show is 12 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, prepping your skin as soon as possible and making that a habit is only going to make that tan look so much better. I'll use myself and Jenny, for example. I know we pretty much do that tanning skin prep all year round. It's something we always do. We're always exfoliating, we're always lotioning, always making sure that the hair is off, because the more your body is also used to it, the better and better your skin will look, the better and better your tan is going to come out as well every time that you compete. And especially if you compete a lot, it's something you just have to keep up with. But if it's something that you work into your daily routine and just becomes a habit for you, it doesn't also become such a big ordeal getting ready to get on stage to prep your skin for the show and to get that tan.
Sure. I will say, from a judge's perspective, they've hit everything. As far as a clean, consistent, even tan, it's so important, because if it's close and someone has a better tan that's not distracting, the person with a better tan has the better overall look, and they're going to get the win. And one thing I want to call out too, no matter what your skin tone is, it's important to get a coat of tan. It warms up your skin tone on stage. Under these lights, they can wash anybody out. And no matter what your skin tone is, at least one coat of tan, even if your skin's pretty dark, it just warms you up. It's like that warm brown tone that just makes you pop a little bit more on stage. So no matter what, plan on getting a tan. You can do your own. Highly recommend doing the show tanner for whatever show it is that you're doing, because it's so much easier and less stressful. But always plan on having this as part of your routine.
And then what she said also about different skin tones, if you have paler skin, like myself, for example, what I will always actually do is start my tan earlier. So a really good practice, if you have a lighter skin tone, is instead of waiting until, let's say, the night before to tan, that Thursday night, let's say you have a Saturday show, Thursday night, it's great to put a base tan on yourself. If you just do like the pro tan overnight, if you do a base tan on Thursday and then rinse it Friday afternoon, that base tan you put on and then rinsed off will just give your skin more color underneath so that way you're going to get dark enough on stage, because you do have to be dark enough to highlight your physique, but then again, at the same time, you don't want to be too dark. So just doing that one, maybe two coats if you have very, very light skin or skin that doesn't take it very well, is only going to help you that much better. Something I also tend to actually suggest to do is, before you're even getting ready to go on stage for your show, before you go to your actual tanning, to actually see how your skin reacts to the tan ahead of time. So I actually would recommend, before you're going into your show, like even a month out or so, try doing an overnight coat of just Pro Tan, which you can order online from their website. Try doing an overnight coat on yourself, see how the color comes out, see how your skin takes it, and that's going to give you a better idea. The suit cuts have kind of gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, but smaller is not always better. Most of the time it's not. So you want to do something that's going to really show the roundness of your glutes, but it also depends on how much glute development you have, because if you're maybe on borderline of too much glutes, if you have too small of a cut, that's going to then accentuate that your glutes are maybe bigger than your legs, and then that can throw off your physique. So it has to be something that also complements you. And then when it comes to picking the colors, it's good to have some guidance there. I know a lot of suit companies will help you with that. I know myself and Jenny, we actually do stage look consultations for people, where the color has to highlight your skin tone, your look, even the energy or the vibe that you're bringing on stage. Certain suit colors that come to mind that always tend to look good on most people is going to be jewel tones. If you do like those, the blues, even a little bit of greens, those tend to be pretty safe colors for everybody. So if you're unsure, doing one of those usually is a pretty good route. But mainly you want the suit to complement your look, and not take away from it, not be distracting. You don't want the judges to remember you from your suit. You want them to remember you from your entire package, right?
And I'm sure Becky can talk about this more, but one thing we saw a lot last year that they were constantly saying was how low the suits are in front. They're starting to get a little bit of a V. I know Sandy talked about it at the women's workshop, that it's actually not flattering. So if you're hearing the judges themselves tell you that having it way low and in a V is not flattering, then I would be the first one to get straight across and pull it up. So when it goes down so low, it just appears that your stomach pokes out. And the last thing we want working so hard is to have it look like our stomachs are poking out. I know you don't. So, and also from their point, where they're seeing, it's inappropriate. We all have talked about the back pose and how we're not bending over because we don't want to be inappropriate. Same thing with the front. It just does not need to be so low. But I'm sure you need to talk about that more.
On behalf of Debbie Mannion, I will speak on that. And they really are getting very strict from the office on the suits, because us as judges, we've noticed this over the last couple of years. And so they've just taken it from the head office and tried to mandate more coverage, especially in the front. It should not be so low that you're at risk of a wardrobe malfunction. It should be moderate coverage. Like she said, it doesn't flatter you, especially if you've got a long torso. You're just showing more skin, which makes your body look like your torso is even longer. Remember, we want balance in all aspects. Your arms, your legs, your torso, everything should look as proportional as possible. So you're really not doing yourself any favor with that fit. And a reason I think that a lot of the suits look so low is people are wearing their suits wrong. And I hear a lot of the suit designers saying this as well and putting out, videos. This is how you wear your suit. They're getting hyped up so far in the back, I think, to try to highlight the glutes. I see some girls where the suit is sitting like on their lower back and not even on the top of their glutes, which doesn't help. It makes you look like you're missing your upper glute. So it doesn't help from the back. And then the suit's so low in the front, you've got the bad look from the front. So I think it's improper wearing of the suit and maybe getting a suit that's a little bit too small. Same thing, not just talking bikini, but talking about figure and physique and bodybuilding and all of that. Make sure that you're wearing your suit correctly there too. Like the straps on the sides, I know it feels nuts, but it should be even with your belly button for those divisions. Typically that's the smallest part of your waist, and it's going to draw our eyes in and make you have even more of an X frame for those divisions. So if you're a first-time competitor, it's going to feel crazy to have your suit up that high, but really it's the most flattering for your physique. And I also think we see in wellness and bikini too, sometimes the tendency is to wear the suits too low, like on the hips. And that was a look maybe when it first started. And I think Fit Model will be a little bit lower, but I think for bikini, at least like up where your hip bone is, right? Like, what do you guys tell? Like, I think that that's the most flattering I see.
Yeah. We always basically say right at the top of the hip bone. That's going to be pretty much for everybody. And then if you wear it at the top of the hip bone, it will come around. So it's not going to be too high in the back, too much there. So I always pretty much say the hip bone.
And then on suits from my perspective, I think a lot of athletes, or they ask me, they're like, should I, get a new suit or have different suits for every show? If your suit is right for you, I won't remember your suit. Like they're saying, I will remember your physique and I will remember that you were all pulled together. Keep wearing that suit. I always tell the story of Ashley Coltzer. She turned pro in a suit and she won an Olympia in that same suit. It was falling apart by that point, but it was her signature look and it worked for her. So why replace the suit if it's working for you? So don't think that you've got to take a risk and make a change or spend more money. Those things cost a pretty penny, so get your
that suit's got to be ordered because you want to get it in. Now, of course, when you do get that suit in, let's say you get it 4 weeks later, it's not going to fit perfectly yet, and that's okay, but it's going to give you an idea as to whether it's going to be the fit, the color, the cut that it needs to be once you get on stage. The last thing you want to do is wait last minute to order your suit and then one, have to pay all these expedited fees, but two, kind of hope and pray that it's going to fit you correctly on stage and be the look that you want it to be. So 8 weeks out is typically what we recommend in order to get that suit ordered.
I thought of something that it is more of a personal preference, but having been backstage and doing a lot with one of the tanning companies and tanning and makeup, that the adjustable neck tops are not quite as flattering. Well, they might look flattering because you don't have the tie behind your neck, but it doesn't give us much control over wrangling the girls and getting everything up in there. So you're better off with the tie back for bikini and Fit Model. That way everything is tight and where it needs to be, and it's not slipping and you're not having any wardrobe malfunctions either.
Mm-hmm. And same for the back.
Yeah,
the lower back, yeah, across the back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bling, like having the connector like that across your back, yes, it does look very pretty, but it doesn't give you any room to adjust the suit. And at the end of the day, just like Becky said, like they don't care if you have a tie in the back or you have a connector in the back. They want it to fit right, so that way you look your best. So we always will recommend getting the ties and never recommend getting the connector in the back. Questions on suits? Yes. Huh. Yeah.
I hate to say that because someone might have that.
I know, like the suit colors that very few people can pull off are orange, pink, very few can pull off, black, very few can actually pull off. Don't ever wear a white suit.
Unless you just want to wear it one time.
Yeah.
Lime green. And yeah, lime green. Sometimes it's not because of your skin tone. You also have to take in consideration the tan. So that's why pink looks beautiful on a lot of people. Coral out at the beach, it looks gorgeous because that's a totally different tan and undertone than the tan that Pro Tan puts on you. It has a redness to it. So you have to think about how that red is going to clash with the orange or whatever, or the black, it might just be way too dark. So sometimes it's not just because it doesn't look good on your skin. It might look great on your skin at the beach, but how is it going to look with that Pro Tan?
Even doing I mean, obviously, I think red suits are great. I wear a red suit, but you want it to be red too, for that same reason. If it's like too dark of a red or too orangey of a red in the undertones, it's going to blend in with that tan and not look as good. Something I do also recommend when it comes to crystals going over the suit is colored crystals tend to be great. If you do too many of those AB crystals, what that can actually do is reflect against the light, and then you actually can't even see the color correctly, and it is distracting from your physique. So you want to be careful with AB style crystals as well. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's a good question. What can we bring to prepare yourself? Now, we were talking about not having to have, a change of suits. But if you do have maybe a less expensive suit that you have as a backup suit, that's a good idea. But having a sewing kit with you, most of the suit companies have made the suits now where they are adjustable in the front and the back. So say you've, like you said, you've lost too much weight, more weight than you expected, and it's slipping and sliding and falling down. That way you can have a little sewing kit to sew it in the back and to fix it. Those little tabs can be opened up and they can be fixed, no problem. So that's what I would recommend.
I do actually also recommend having a backup suit. Now, it doesn't have to be as, let's say, extravagant or as expensive as your actual suit that you plan to wear, but God forbid something does happen and it's not fixable, you don't want to have no suit, right? So at the end of the day, even if you have to get on stage with kind of just a plain suit that matches your cut, that's maybe your posing suit, if you can't actually get one that's similar to your actual stage suit, you're better off getting on stage with that and trying to get on stage with the suit and, praying that nothing.
And Bikini Bite is your friend. If you're unfamiliar with it, get some, take it to the show. I think the tanners are really helpful too. I know there's been times that I needed my suit adjusted and they would glue me into my suit and they could place it where it was most flattering on me. And so there was, my suit got too big, but they glued it down and it was appropriate. It looked fine. They made it just a little bit smaller. It's something you can do yourself, but also the Backstage people can help you out with that. If you need to do it yourself, though, get some Bikini Bite. If you guys are unfamiliar, it's like a glue that you stick on your skin and it sticks the suit to your skin. Pageant girls use it. Everybody uses it. It's very helpful in suit situations.
And for that Bikini Bite, I recommend getting the spray because it works a lot better. Something that I actually do every show because I don't like to put too much Bikini Bite. So I actually will take the Bikini Bite spray and let's say like in my top, I'll spray the inside of my top and let it sit for a little bit because then when I put it on, it doesn't move. It's just tacky enough so that way it doesn't move, but not too tacky where it's, we're going to, where it's going to peel your skin off. Other questions? Yes. So when you order it, they'll pretty much usually when you're ordering it ask you like anticipated weight loss to kind of figure out what your inches will be. If you have a coach, that's something your coach should pretty much know as to where you need to end up. So that way when you do get it, then like I said, if you get it, let's say 4 weeks out, it might not fit perfectly yet, but should be 4 weeks out, you should be pretty close. That'll give you an idea. But then obviously if you have to adjust it from then, a lot of suit companies are great where if you just send it back with the adjustments that you need, they'll do that for you usually with a quick turnaround. Or if you can do it yourself, if you know how to sew, then you could do it as well. If you need something with bigger fabric coverage, then that would be a send back to the suit company. But suit company like Toxic Angels, Angel Competition, like they're really good about that kind of stuff when you need to adjust the suit. But yeah, if you don't need to change your suit, don't. And then it's better. You also save money if you just need to then make tiny adjustments to it like that instead of having to order a whole new one. Other questions? Nope. Yes. Yes. So if you do wear a waist trainer, I would usually recommend that, let's say you're getting a tan on Friday, stop wearing it by Monday or Tuesday, the latest. So that way all of those lines can go away. But if you do wear it all the time, you might want to just stop that whole peak week. So that way you just make sure, because you will, if you wear it too close to getting the tan, you're going to see those lines all throughout your abdomen.
She said they can see that as judges too. So yeah, stop wearing it that week. And also, this is where you want to get something like Get Buffed by Protan or just plain Dawn soap, and use that to shower with, because you're going to, these things, these waist trainers, they build up stuff no matter how much you scrub them, and it leaves a residue on your skin. So this is where you want to make sure you're doing that. And Friday, before you get your tan, first thing in the morning, take that shower, scrub off with either Get Buffed or some Dawn soap. That way you're removing all of those oils. Do not put any lotion on anywhere. I know you're going to feel dry. It's going to be uncomfortable. Do a quick rinse of cold before you get out. But then that your skin's going to be prepped perfectly for that tan. It's not going to show.
What you might actually want to do as well is let's say you're 2 weeks out. If you're still wearing your waist trainer, it would be good to have like a shirt that's not like ribbed underneath it, because then you're not going to get that buildup on your skin that week. Then don't wear it the peak week of the show, and then you shouldn't see anything. Other questions? Dawn soap. Yeah. Dawn dish soap. Mm-hmm.
No, there's others you can use. Sorry. There's others you can use. I just know that Dawn dish soap is like the easy. It's also the best for getting the tan off afterwards, like the Pro Tan remover, but I use Dawn dish soap. It's really good for just removing those impurities that are on your skin.
Yeah, no moisturizer in the soaps. So your best thing is, I recommend if you do a combination, mix the Dawn soap with the Get Buffed, because then that exfoliant in the Get Buffed is also going to help your pH. The Dawn doesn't have anything that's going to leave a residue or any moisturizer, so those combined should really help your skin. Yes? Yes, typically by, let's say, the Monday or Tuesday before, if you have a Saturday show. Yeah, like 4 or 5 days out, stop the moisturizers. Mm-hmm. Yes, like by Tuesday, stop moisturizing. Mm-hmm. But that's also why you want to, the entire year before that, be moisturizing daily, because if you have very dry skin and then on that Tuesday you stop moisturizing, you do risk that you might be a little too dry once you get that tan, which is a thing as well. That can also make the tan come out off. So that's why if you do the moisturizing, exfoliating, everything all year round, and then stop that moisturizer by the Tuesday, your skin should be great.
Share my little secret. So I have a little secret concoction that I put together that I moisturize with all the time, and you can get it anywhere. It's the Pond's cocoa butter, the tub. It has to be the tub, not the one that you pump, and it's solid. Mix that with Neutrogena sesame oil, light sesame oil, and black castor oil. So I just put that tub in the microwave, let it, get a little, or scoop some of it out, let it soften, mix in those oils. It'll harden back up, and you put that on daily, your skin's going to feel amazing. It has made such a transformation in my skin. What's that?
Other questions? Do you want to talk about makeup?
Sure. All right, so then to go along with all of that, you've done all the work and your skin's prepped and everything. Now let's talk about hair and makeup. So this is really important as well for all of the divisions. We want to look as put together with the hair and makeup as we do with the tan and everything else. So using the sponsored hair and makeup is what we really recommend that you do, because stage makeup is so different than everyday makeup. It's even different than photo shoot makeup. The professionals are going to know exactly what to use on your skin to help it to not completely match the tan, but to go along with the tan, because you do not want your face to be as dark as your body, but you want it to go along with it and be about a shade or two lighter. It just will help everything to match and not have a glow on the face. There are no guys in here, I forgot. I almost started talking about guys. That's the part that bothers me the most, when their faces are so white. But they'll know how to take care of it and how to contour. They'll also know how to make your makeup look good on you. So this is about you looking your best and coming out and looking beautiful head to toe. What we don't want it to be about is your makeup. Right? So coming out with makeup that is just really wild and crazy, bright blue eyes or bright sparkles overdone, big, humongous lashes. If they, excuse me, look up and it's all about the makeup, it's distracting. So you want it to be more flattering, something that goes along with, to just amplify your natural beauty. I think the biggest mistake that people make it's the matching of the skin tone, but also the lashes. We love us some lashes, but the big, big, big ones with these lights, when these lights are on and they shine down on you, it casts such a shadow on your face. So just if you are going to try to do your own hair and makeup, to save a little bit, I understand that. I offer classes where I teach people how to do it for stage. That is one thing that I point out. The big, huge lashes are fun for other times, but they're not for stage. You want nice lashes to give length, but not to just completely shadow. You are trying to keep your head up while you look down, and it will just shadow you and make you have all these dark eyes. So that's something to pay attention with.
So for stage makeup, the goal is to complete your look and make you look healthy on stage. I know most of us are very healthy when we get on stage, but some people, as they diet, their face gets a little bit drawn, a little bit sunken in the cheeks. That's another benefit of using a professional makeup artist. I've seen them do wonderful things, especially like women bodybuilding. Like they're so glamorous now. And they look so beautiful on stage, but some of that for them, because they get lean, is the makeup. And it's about bringing your cheeks out a little bit. Instead of showing definition, we want to show fullness because it shows femininity, it shows health. And really, that's what your stage presentation is supposed to be, right? You're supposed to look like a healthy, fit version of yourself. And so that's where the, healthy looking hair comes into place. And also the makeup, it should flatter you and complement that kind of a look. And then also on the hair, I always get questions like, what kind of hair is best on stage? Personally, I've used my hair to hide physique flaws, so I've always had long hair, and I actually put extensions in my own hair to make it thicker, because when I went to bikini from figure, I had to cover my back. I had too much density, so I made sure that my hair was on my back, covered so they couldn't see it. I've seen some wellness girls use their hair across their shoulder because maybe they've got too much upper body. They're coming from figure to wellness, so they'll use their hair to hide some of the width up top. That's something that you can definitely do, but I think the most important thing for your hair is that you wear something you feel confident in. Thankfully, we've gotten away from the days of having to wear, long, straight, dark hair, which was always the thing 10 years ago. And we're seeing all different kinds of hairstyles on stage. Everything from, I think we have a competitor that has alopecia, so she has no hair on stage, and she looks beautiful, and it's her, and she feels confident. And I've seen even fellow competitors of mine, they try to change their hairstyle to what they think the judges want, and they just look uncomfortable. You can read it on their face that they don't feel confident in what they're doing, and that is not the look that you want to portray to the judges. So I would say if you've got a look that you really like, short hair, colored hair, we've had girls with a halo, like an afro, and it was gorgeous. I still remember that girl. It was probably 10 years ago. She was so confident. And so I think as long as your hair looks healthy, it looks like it's actually been styled, it's taken care of. If it fits you and your personality, it works. I would not make major changes just for the stage. I don't know what you guys think.
No, I definitely agree with that. And like she says, with being comfortable with your hair, if you do want to add extensions in your hair for body, which if you are going to wear long hair on stage, I do tend to recommend putting in at least a layer or a piece of extensions just to add a little bit of fullness. But you want to look comfortable, so if it's something you never do, you don't want stage day to be the first time you're wearing stage extensions and getting on stage with them. Get yourself used to wearing them. Actually practice your posing with extensions in, because you are actually going to move differently and hold your head a little differently if you do have extensions in, which majority of people will have something on stage just to add that body. So you just want to get yourself comfortable and used to it. And like Becky said, be something that's like you. I do agree, obviously, make sure it's a hairstyle that you really like and enjoy. but it does still have to complement your physique. As far as like hair color goes, anything that's going to be kind of like goldy, ashy, and blend in with the tan or orangey isn't going to really show that depth and that definition. So that might be a consideration to change that. Blonde, brunette, though, that really doesn't matter. That's up to you and your personality. When it comes to the length of your hair, if you are going to wear it long, something you do have to take into consideration is how long it is. Because if it's too long in the back, it's going to cover the top of your glutes, and then that's going to throw off your shape. If it's too full or wide in the back, it's going to take away from your waist, and then you'll look wide-waisted when you want to bring your waist in smaller. So you have to take into account that length of it as well. Typically about 2 inches above the your back cut of your suit is going to be the best place you want it to sit. And that's when you're in your back pose too, not just when you're standing, because when you're in your back pose, it's going to cover a little bit more. So you do have to take into consideration the length as well. And then I obviously have short hair, but I wear long hair on stage because the middle of my back gets too lean, and then that throws off my balance. So that is something you want to take into a factor as well. If you are going to do short versus long hair, just also consider how it's going to affect your physique.
I like the point that you touched on real quick, but make sure when you're posing that you're posing with your hair down. I get a lot of people sending me, or a lot of my clients send me pictures and their videos, and their hair is up, and then stage day, it's all awkward, and they're forgetting to get it off their shoulders, and it's landing and it's covering their shoulders after all of that work. So don't forget to practice your posing with your hair down so you can see how it moves, and if it should, when you turn, get on your shoulders, you're able to swipe it off and make it look natural and not be struggling with anything like that. So make sure you're thinking about that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you actually have to be just as conscious of where your hair is landing or what it's doing, as well as your physique is. So if you're posing and your hair is constantly landing like this and covering your shoulder, but you actually want to show your shoulder, if you're not used to it doing that, then like she said, you won't know to brush it off your shoulder. So moving your hair where it needs to be actually needs to be a part of your routine as well. So when you do practice your posing, like she said, make sure that it's down and it's a way that you can practice it. Even when you get into your back pose, you have to get used to moving it so that it's all even in the back. Those are things that you think are just easy, I'm going to remember. But when you're on stage, the adrenaline's rushing, you have a million things on your mind. You probably won't remember if you haven't been practicing let me make sure I place my hair and everything's where it needs to be. Questions?
Just quickly, I forgot to mention, back with the makeup, we talked about exfoliating and everything for the skin, and we did say it really quickly about the face, but it is just as important about the face to look healthy and to look fresh, and you need to shave all the little blonde hairs off the face as well. If you think about when you go get a dermaplaning facial, they do it, so trust me, you're not going to end up with a beard. Otherwise, I would have one by now. But all those little hairs, what it does, it affects the way your makeup sits on your face. So you want to get all those little hairs off. Also, by doing that, you're exfoliating. All the creams in the world, no matter how much you spend on them, they're not going to penetrate the skin unless you remove all the dead skin cells. So get the hair off of there, the dead skin cells, all that product will be able to be used, and your face will be moisturized, and then the makeup will sit a lot better.
And also, I don't know if you mentioned this, but never tan your face. Always, don't let them tan your face, because you don't want that on your skin. You want it to be makeup, and then have them match and blend the makeup into your tan, where it's that a couple shades lighter, like she mentioned. Never get that pro tan or liquid sun rays or whatever it is on your face.
It's actually a trend I saw where people are doing it as a contour, and what happens is you may not have sunspots, you don't think you have any sunspots, but the moment that stuff touches your face, it will show every freckle and sunspot, and it holds on forever. So you do not want to do that. She said she's never heard about shaving the face. So you have all these little fine hairs that are on the face. Yeah, so shave them all. If you ever go get like a facial, a dermaplaning, that's actually what they're doing. So they're taking off the little skin, but it's also shaving all the little fine hairs, and it'll make your makeup just look beautiful. It also feels good too.
More questions? Do you think of any other?
Can you guys talk about like shoes and jewelry?
Yes. Yes. So accessorizing, shoes and jewelry. Really, the theme here is you want it to complement your look, complement your package, and be putting your whole package together. So you don't want to do anything that's going to, again, take away from your physique. So when it comes to jewelry, little dangly earrings, maybe a bracelet or two, a ring, plenty. You don't want to do big hair pieces. You don't want to do necklaces. You don't want to do too big of earrings that are going to take anything away. You don't want to be doing all these like huge bangle bracelets that are going to cover too much either. So something that's going to be accentuating you and just add a little bit of sparkle be great, but nothing that's going to be too gaudy or crazy.
And I was thinking about this a second ago because I was fixing my hair and it got caught in this ring that I have on. So another thing, practice wearing your jewelry as well. You're going to practice in your suit. You're going to practice with the hair we talked about, but in the jewelry too. Because just when I went like this, I got all hung up, and it's happened on stage as well. So that's going to throw you off. And up here, it's fine. But when you're on stage, any little thing's going to throw you off. It's going to throw your confidence off. It's going to show on your face. So just being aware that, okay, this ring would not be one I would wear on stage. It would mess up when I'm trying to get my hair pushed to the back. That one's gone. We get a new one.
And when it comes to the earrings, keep in mind your neck length, because if you have a shorter neck and you wear really long earrings, they're going to dangle on you, and they most likely will get caught in your suit as well. I have had that actually happen before. So you want to make sure you try those earrings on, and then they might just, as you're standing and looking at them, look like they're okay. They might actually need to be a little shorter, because when you're twisting and in your poses, they can still get caught. So make sure the length is good as well. Honestly, being a good like inch above where that connector is going to be a safe bet for the earrings. Did you want to add anything?
I think I'll just second the fact that posing with your jewelry is super important, especially for like figure, physique, bodybuilding. If you have to move your hair, I can tell you I snagged my hair so bad doing that once, and that bracelet went on the other wrist the next time, because when you're on stage, you just have to go. And so I just pulled a bunch of hair out, and I was like, oh, that was painful. We're not doing that again. So I switched it to the other hand. Had I practiced with my jewelry on, I would have realized that, oh, I used my right hand to move my hair. I should have practiced with that. And just to reiterate, just keeping it simple, something to complement your look is all that's needed. You don't need to get all this crazy jewelry, and you don't even really need to spend a lot on it. It should complement, it should not be the standout piece. And I would say, I don't know about you guys, but the colored jewelry too, I say keep it just like the rhinestones, like it shouldn't, because I think colored jewelry distracts as well, even if it's like red rhinestones or something. I'm looking at that more than I'm looking at the suit. So that would be the only other thing.
Yeah, you don't have to be like all matchy-matchy with your eye makeup, your earrings, your suit. It doesn't all have to match. That's not what it's about. It's just complementing your physique. It's just adding a little bit of glam, basically, to your package and to your look.
Which also brings up nails. That's another instance where don't match your nails to your suit. You want them to be natural. Light pink is what usually we tell everybody, a French, something like that. Just, you don't want this blue suit and blue nails and blue toes, and that's everything that they're seeing as you walk across, because it's going to get picked up in the light. So just let them look at what you're here to show them.
So there's been a lot of different changes when it comes to nails specifically. Would you prefer a specific style, the pointed, the coffin, the cut, just all natural?
I don't think the shape or anything matters, whatever you're comfortable with, but it's more or less just the color. You don't want it to be distracting.
Oh yeah, no long.
Oh yeah, it's super long, like you don't want to take out anybody.
Yeah.
Scratch yourself, I've done that.
When it comes to shoes, is there a requirement like on heels?
Yes, so typically like 3 to 4 inches is what most of them is going to be. You don't need a platform. That is going to depend on you, what you can walk in, as well as even your physique or how tall you are. But typically 3 to 4 inches. You do want it to be clear heels. You don't need all the bling on your shoes. It can look pretty, and if it's not distracting, that's fine. But sometimes you'll see so many rhinestones on the shoes that all you see is the shoes, or it almost makes the platform and the heel look gray because it's covered in rhinestones, and that'll just take away from your physique. Because then, think of it this way too: the judges, you're looking from feet up, so they're going to look. The first thing they see is shoes, so you don't want that to be what they see as well. But 3 to 4 inches typically. If you, for example, are somebody that has maybe bigger quads, you might want to stay away from the platforms. If you have really long legs, you might also want to stay away from the platforms too much if it's going to make you look too long on the lower body. So that's going to be dependent on your physique, but 3 to 4 inches typically.
That's good advice. Whatever you can walk in. I love that part because that's so important. Whatever you can confidently walk in on stage, practice in those heels. That's why for first timers, I don't tend to recommend platforms just because I think they're a lot harder to walk in and you can lose your balance a little bit. So get heels that you're confident in, you can walk in comfortably and practice in them and break them in, I would say, so that you don't look like a little baby deer out there on stage on show day, and also so that they're comfortable on your feet too, because you could be standing in them for a while. So
I don't know anybody like that.
Now they usually.
Oh, she was asking if we know of any places where you can go and try them on instead of having to order them and send them back. We don't know of anything like that. Yeah, maybe a dance store or something like that. Yeah, the Shoe Fairy is pretty much the ones everybody kind of goes with. I've tried a bunch. Those are very comfortable. But yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know of anything in person. I was going to say, though, that when you are practicing so that you're comfortable and you're walking in them, practice on different surfaces because you don't know what the stage is going to be. And it can be show to show. You know, like obviously this stage is always going to stay the same, but you can have a show in a certain venue and they still use that same venue, but they set up a different type of stage. So you want to practice on carpet, practice on hardwood, practice on slick hardwood, practice on everything. So that way you know, and if, you know, the night before when you're going in and you're checking in, you can always ask the, you know, promoter if there's a way you can get to see the stage and walk on it and feel how it, you know, how it is. And that way you're prepared ahead of time.
And the second you decide you want to compete, get your heels and start walking around your heels, walk around the house, cleaning your heels, posing your heels, do everything that you can in your heels. Especially if you're somebody that doesn't wear heels all the time, because it's a very different way of walking that you have to get used to. And just like Becky said, you want to be comfortable on stage. You want to be able to walk in those heels, you know, and you have to walk all across the stage. You're going through your routine, so it has to be something you can actually move in.
And the whole purpose of all of this we were talking about is confidence. And when you are not confident, it's going to show. So if you are unsteady in those heels, if you're not confident that your suit looks good on you, if you think your tan looks a mess, if you're not happy with your hair and makeup, all of that is going to be portrayed in the way you carry yourself, right? And that's just, it's going to show. No matter how well your physique looks, it's going to show if you're not walking confidently.
She's so cute. Any more questions? Hair, makeup.
Seriously, there's got to be one more question.
Yeah.
I
love it. Thank you.
How important are like hair extensions? Like if you have, like you keep their hair on like shorter natural hair, or is it mostly how important is that?
So she asked how important hair extensions are. I touched on it a little bit before. I tend to usually recommend extensions unless you have very thick hair, just because it will add a little bit of volume and body to your hair, which will just give you more of that glamorous, healthy kind of look on stage. Do you need extensions? No, but it can definitely amplify your look if you do have longer hair. We tend to, because we do the stage look consultations, we tend to pretty much recommend them for just about everybody. I actually I'll share another secret of mine. So I recommend for hair extensions, instead of doing like the layered clip-ins, I recommend doing either a V-clip or a halo. There's a website called hiddencrown.com. It's an investment to get extensions from there, but they last forever. I have used the same V-clip from them for, I think it's 7 years, same one, and it's lasted really well, but it can definitely help.
And from a professional standpoint, we appreciate when you get that type of hair extension because it goes in a lot faster. Show day is busy and the time slots for your hair and makeup are really short. So my hair has gotten thinner over the years as I've gotten older, so I've gotten a halo. I'm going to pop that halo in. It also, those hair extensions, they make them from natural hair, so they can be curled and they don't need to be washed as often as your hair. So it's going to help your hair already look fixed and put together. And especially if you're doing curls, even if you have really thick hair, it's going to start getting kind of clumped together. So when you have it even thicker, it can stay looking fuller and not just end up with just like a few ringlets in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So she recommend what type of shoe for first timers? Honestly, it depends on what you're comfortable in. Not having the strap, so they make ones where you have a strap that's a little bit smaller on the foot. They make ones where they have two straps that are a little bit thicker on the foot. That's what I personally wear, so they don't have the back strap. And then they have the back strap. But if you're not really used to walking in heels, I do actually recommend having the strap around your ankle because you'll just feel a little bit more secure in it, but not too big of a platform though. So especially a first timer. So when you do your platform, or really as a rule in general, if you are going to do a platform, don't go for the high platform. It's like maybe an inch when it comes to platform. Anything that you can actually be comfortable and walk in. At the end of the day, that's the biggest rule. You have to be able to walk in those shoes and move in those shoes.
And real quick, from a figure perspective, posing in figure shoes, I started with a strap because I did feel more secure. And I was doing smaller shows at the time, but by the time I got to the national shows where it was like hours and hours and hours and, the pro stage, I got the ones I could slip into just because for figure, like I had to have my suit glued down. And I might get my suit glued and then not get on stage for a while. And I didn't want to be on my feet, like standing in my shoes. To buckle my shoe, I had to I'd pop my bikini bite off and I just thought I'd rather carry my shoes around and step into them backstage so I could be off my feet for a little bit. So that's something you can consider too. If you're good enough in the double strap and you can just slip them on, that works too.
Yeah, that's why I do them for the same reason, just so you could easily take them on and off as you get comfortable.
This is a question for the judge.
All right.
If it fits you, honestly, it's as flattering as possible. She asked how much would she be deducted if she just took an off-the-rack suit. I've seen girls win with, suits that are maybe not professional. It's most important that it's appropriate. And actually, when we used to check suits, there were girls that had suits that were way too small. They got something off the rack that was a little bit better fitting and it was more flattering, and they did well because of that. Like the suit they had the first go around would not have done that many favors on stage. So I don't necessarily deduct for that. I might give you feedback, and ask you, what's the situation with a suit? Maybe it looked a little different, but we do see people wear different suits and things like that. I think the point of cultivating your look with your suit, your tan, your hair, your makeup is to present that overall package. But if something goes sideways and you have to get on stage in a different suit, just rock it, be as comfortable as possible, and confident as possible, and I would not worry about it. Like, don't let that derail your show day. Even like, say a strap on your shoe breaks or your earring, something happens, just keep going. Like, it's no big deal, because again, we're just trying to maximize all the variables so your look is as polished as possible. But one little thing, don't let it derail you. Like, be confident and don't worry about it. I would not stress out about that. Yes? Yes. So she's asking about the bikini, the back of the suit. We cover the front of the suit, that sometimes it can be too small and it's not flattering. And that can happen with the back of the suit too. I think it's very important for you not only to have coverage that flatters your glutes, which these ladies are experts in, like doing stage consultations or like that sort of thing, I think is great because it can be individual. But you want to have enough fabric to cover everything, thinking that we're sitting down there and your pose is like this. You want everything to be covered. And I've always said, I've never penalized somebody for 1 extra inch of fabric. If it's a question of too small or just right, like a little bit of extra fabric is not going to hurt you. And if your coach says, oh, it needs to be a little smaller, you can pin it or you can do things at their advice to make it shaped a little bit different. But I think once you go too small, you're really boxed into a corner, and that can be kind of risky. So I think the major suit designers have a really good lock on what fits and flatters people, and you can go with them, but I would not be afraid to wear a little bit more coverage, especially if that's what you're comfortable in. Like, you don't have to, we don't want to see thongs for sure, and you don't have to go super, super small. That doesn't serve your physique, and if it's going to break your confidence, absolutely not.
How important is the rise front to back? Because I've been seeing girls on stage where it's barely covering that
Right here you're talking
special
about?
area in the
Yes.
So from a judge's point of view.
Yes, so for wellness, that's a great call out, because she asked how important is the rise in the front for wellness suits. That's where we actually started to notice it, is more in wellness, is that because they have like the connectors come a little higher, and it's that pose. When your hips are turned, it can look like there's no suit there. Depending on how you're standing, all I can see is connectors sometimes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and it's distracting for me as a judge because I'm worried about the wardrobe malfunction. I know the photos are probably not going to be great. This athlete's going to hate their photos. It's so distracting and borders on inappropriate. And then, like we said before, if you've got too much torso space, you can look like you're just disproportionate. It doesn't balance your physique. And a little bit more fabric there is, I think, only going to help you. It's appropriate. It looks better on the torso. I really hate those little teeny tiny little things that are so low. And that's something that they're really harping on this year, that the suit needs to fit appropriately. And that's something that the head office looks at the photos of the shows. And they, of course, look at all the pro shows, all the national shows, but they look at, they do little spot checking of the local shows too, to see what's going on, to try to, change the direction if it's going the wrong way. Like, if one region there's a bunch of people with suits that are wrong, that chairman will probably hear about it from the head office, like, what's going on there? We need to educate them and change that.
Well, I was just going to mention that when you use the tanning company and they're going to spray and put the Bikini Bite and help you into your suit, trust them and let them put the suit where they're trained to have it to go, especially in the back with bikini. It does go up, but it's not necessarily have to go all the way up. So if they're pulling it out and spraying you and then gluing it down, allow them to do that. That's why you don't want to then have to bend down to put on your shoes or sit back down. You want that suit to actually stay out. That's where women naturally carry a lot of excess fat, and if we have a little bit there and the suit's going in, that's going to make your glutes come together and touch. So by having that little extra fabric there and letting them spray it down and have it be where it's most flattering, that's where you want it. And the same thing with the front. We want it to be where it's most flattering and appropriate. You know, fit model and wellness both have that twist going on, and that's where it's going to be able to see right down into the front. But she actually had a question.
Yes, so she asked about feedback from the judges. It varies depending on the area. Like, I think it might be Texas that is only doing in-person feedback now. Some do a mix. I know in the Mid-Atlantic region, you can email, things like that. I would ask at check-ins. And if you go to the competitor meeting, they should cover it. I will say for myself personally, I like to give feedback right after the show. And you ladies are good about bringing your athletes up and always asking for feedback right after the show. For me personally, I can communicate more in person and having a conversation with you, and especially if it's a posing issue, I might ask you, like, hit your front pose and like adjust it a little bit and say, try it this way or something like that. It's just much more interactive. And if you've got another show coming up, you've got immediate feedback. Like, you can take it, like, say you're a little too hard and you've got, you know, you're a little too lean and you've got a show in a week. If you're waiting for that email, you're losing precious days that you could use to change your physique and maybe soften it a little bit or come in a little tighter if need be. So I think giving you that information right then is most important. Also, I travel quite a bit and I have a full-time job, so getting back to emails is a little difficult, and a lot of us judges are like that. So I think if you can interact with them right at the show, it's most beneficial. If they ask you to email, they'll typically give you a contact person to email, and they'll ask you to send your stage photos. So pull them off the NPC website. Those are closest to what we see as judges. So no like bathroom selfies, candids out with your boyfriend in the lobby. The lighting is different. So send us like a front and a back so that we can see your physique, and we'll reply back with anything that you'd need. And I know sometimes it can be long, like the shows are long and it's tedious to wait for the feedback, but really I think it's invaluable. And I know everybody wants to go out and eat and just celebrate, but especially if you've got something coming up, and especially if you're trending towards national level shows, pro shows, going to the Olympia, you want that feedback right away so you can work with it. So I would encourage you to stay after and just, connect with the judges a little bit.
Yeah, we always recommend to stay after, no matter how late it is, because another thing you have to keep in mind as well is if you do email the judges afterwards, it's even if the pictures are close, it's still not what they saw when you were on stage. But something they also aren't able to see is you next to everybody else, because remember, you're also being compared with everybody else. So you can be compared to a completely different lineup of people at one show and have certain feedback against them. And granted, your feedback is going to be pretty much the same, but it can vary based on who you were with in that lineup. So that's why staying and getting that immediate feedback is going to be the best thing you can do.
You know what? That's a great question. So many people don't know how we actually judge. So what we do, we're ranking you. There's no points. You don't get like 10 points for, muscularity and 6 points for leanness. It goes quick. We don't have time to do all that math. So we are ranking you as to who is the best in this group and the closest to the criteria. And that's why we move you around in comparisons. We're just trying to compare you with the other people on stage and say who is the closest to, say, the bikini criteria. And I think that's a really common misconception, is that you're scored on all these different things. We, in our mind, have an overall idea of what the standard is. And in my mind, it's always the Olympia winner. That is the epitome of whatever that division is. And who is closest to that, and how much, where does everybody else deviate? And so we place you, like the winner is going to be, 1 on our sheet, then second is 2, all the way down. And for judging, if there's 5 judges, we drop the high and the low, the rest are added together, and then the lowest score is the first place. So that means that person got the most first place votes, typically. And that's why we're talking about all these things today, right? The presentation and the confidence, because that can overcome some physique flaws. And when we're comparing to say who is the best person up here on stage, it can be the person who presents themselves the best, especially on the amateur level when you see a wide range. Like I think in bikini, we see some girls who are maybe a little thicker and, really athletic. And then you see some girls who are just starting out and they don't have a lot of muscle, which thank you, Fit Model, for coming in for that. But you've got this broad range of bodies, and you're just trying to figure out who is the closest. And it's difficult as a judge. Sometimes nobody on that stage is very close. As you get to the pro level, these girls fit the guidelines, and you'll see more consistency on that level. I love that you asked this, because I would tell all of you, as you study the sport and as you look at results from shows, keep in mind we can only judge who shows up. Somebody's got to win. So, literally, we could have all female bodybuilders compete in bikini. Someone's got to win. And someone would look at that and think, this is crazy. Like, they've changed the criteria. I think we see that on social media all the time. The criteria's changed, this and that. No, it hasn't changed. It's just that was the best person on stage that day. Because we're going, who is the best out of that group, and comparatively, who's the best and who beats who. And that's something too in the comparisons. We're moving you around to say it's really close between second and third. I'll move you guys next to each other so we can see you in the light and pose you comparatively. And I know that probably makes everyone nuts, because for me, the winner spot is not always the winner. I may just be trying to move two people who are really close, like 1 point away, in like even third and fourth to the center. So I compare you to see who is best of the two. So I'm glad you've asked that. So many people don't know how we actually score, and that's it. Yes, I think, yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly it. So she's saying, say you have two athletes and they both look pretty good, as they and that's what we're doing as judges, is we're actually looking for your flaws, critiques. Like, I will write, if you look great on stage, or like I've seen you compete multiple times, if it's a great look, I'll be like, yes, you nailed it, I'll write that down. But mostly I'm saying like fuller legs, which is your feedback sometimes, and things like that. So we're picking you apart, trying to find who has the least wrong with them. And in your transitions, in every little movement on stage, we're looking for those little flaws.
That actually brings up a really good point. That I always say is get on, do your routine, and get off. So stop adding the extra little sways and the turns and the head and the hair. The more you do, the more time you're giving them to look for your flaws. And I've actually had a judge get up and show me what I did to show a flaw, where I did one of those little sways and had like a crease under my glutes. And so those are the things that just make it simple, keep it exactly what you need, and get on and get off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you're doing the comparison, and let's say like you're both in an open, you're both, or all three of y'all are in an open, you're also in, say, masters. Is it how they're comparing at that time? So like,
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's a great question. So she asked, what if the three of us were in the open as well as masters and novice? We're competing in multiple classes throughout the morning, right? How are we placed and how are we judged? It is based on that moment in time. We keep track of crossovers just because it's kind of helpful for us, but things can change. And I can tell you, usually the thing that changes is posing, that switches placings. Typically, especially like in bikini, your conditioning is not really going to change. You just kind of are in the condition you are in. Bodybuilding, physique, figure, someone could come in a little tighter or washed out. That could definitely happen, that their physique changes over the course of maybe a few hours. But typically, it's somebody poses better or worse. And that can move them up. And we just take a look at the class for who it is, even if it's the same people. Someone fixes their posing and all of a sudden we can see their physique. That person might take the win. And I know it's so frustrating for athletes. They're like, but I just beat her. I feel like typically that's the differentiation there in the change in placings.
I had a client that is the exact thing that happened to them this past year. She did her first class, and she actually didn't hit her back pose right. She got second place. Then she went to the next class, and she hit it right, and she won and got a pro card. So it can absolutely change.
So that's also an instance where we tell our clients to pose, not just your routine, but also holding. So getting in your front pose and holding that front pose, because, they might have you on the line and they're just waiting for somebody to fall. Like they're comparing you front, back, you get turned front and back numerous times. I know you've seen it at shows happen, or you've been in a show where they've constantly turned you to front to back. And that might be what they're looking for, to see who's going to drop their pose first or not keep everything lifted and tight. So I practice that way. I have my girls practice that way, where I'm just holding a pose for, just counting the time and just holding it, not just doing the routine and walking off.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because we're going to do posing later, of course, but posing conditioning is so different than just learning the poses. And it's so important in every division. Men and women, you need to be conditioned to hold your poses. Of course, it makes sense for bodybuilding, physique, even figure, like you're flexing, you're hitting, you're contracting something. So you have to be conditioned to hold that isometric contraction, but also your core has to be really tight. I think that's the biggest problem I see as a judge, is people let their core go and their stomach drops. This happens. It'll happen in fit model, it happens in bikini, it happens in wellness, in all of the other divisions. You have to be conditioned to keep your core tight, to keep your posture up, and like your back flexibility and everything, like turning the way you are. If you're not flexible, your back's gonna cramp if you're not conditioned. You need to practice significantly. And I feel like first-time competitors, maybe that's a mistake they make, is they're used to sending in progress videos to their coaches or whatever, but that might be all the posing they're doing. And they're hitting their pose right, but they're not doing it consistently and staying in that pose for a long period of time. If you think about it, you're on stage for a good while. And while you're on stage, I'm looking at you potentially. Even when you're over on the diagonal, I might be looking at you to determine my next call out. And if you're, hunched over, you're not standing up nice and tall, your stomach has dropped, I'm going to be like, oh, I thought maybe that was my next girl, but I just caught you at a bad moment. And that's what happens. I feel like you see people shift their weight a lot, which is okay to do, but you need to hit a pose and be in a pose at all times on stage. And that is an underrated effort. And something that matters. Like she said, I'm looking for who fades first. And there's always one. And it makes my job easy. Whoever just starts dropping their pose first, it's like, okay, they just took themselves out of the equation. Yes?
So you can answer it for them. How important, because my height plays a big role in this, is, say a competitor from the front, they lose.
Mm-hmm.
And then height. Then they turn, and wellness plays a lot, and then turn around to the back, they win. How much does that matter on the scoring front to back about your choice when you choose?
That's a good question. She said front to back, how much does it matter? If someone wins from the front and someone wins from the back, that is a tough call, I will say. It's a really tough call, and that happens sometimes, and we will say that, like, this girl's much better from the front, this girl's much better from the back, and then it just comes down to just little nuances of who is just that much better. There is an old saying from bodybuilding, shows are won from the back, and I think that's true in every division, just because your posterior chain is the hardest to develop. It really is. And for everyone, for bodybuilders to get their glutes in, like that's the hardest. For figure to build up your back, your width and everything. And then of course, the glutes and the hamstrings and the glutes in bikini, that is the most difficult. So I think if somebody stands out in that regard, then that's probably going to tip the scales. Just just being a human being and thinking about that usually is what stands out to us. Good question. Yes.
Do you often see the time criteria in true novice and novice?
Good question. And on tie-ins in true novice and novice, first of all, I think it's important to clarify for bikini, we don't want to see like really dug in hamstrings. And what I mean by that is really thick hamstrings where you see intense separation. Like if you look at Laura Lee, you can see the outline of her glutes, but there's nothing, like the hamstrings are developed, but they're not conditioned to a point that you see any separation or anything like that. That's what we really want to see. You should have definition to your glutes, but not in a way that they are like diamond shaped and you can see that intense tie-in. That is never what we want to see. Sometimes in true novice, you see well-developed glutes. It could be someone that came from track or something like that, and they've got legs that are developed. The biggest mistake I see is that girls push back too much and lean over, and we always know what they're trying to do. They're trying to show more development than they probably have. And they're trying to show that elusive tie that they think is so important. It's not. We'd rather see full glutes than any kind of hamstring separation. And even at wellness, like have more separation back there, more fullness, but if they're too dug in back there, that's too much for that division too.
Any other, yes? Oh.
Great question. Yes. Well, that's a great question. She said, how much do scores deviate between prejudging and finals? And this will be my last question, but it's a good one to end on. You have to hold yourself together for finals. In every show, we're looking at you again. Maybe not rejudging, but we're taking a look. And I can say if somebody has gone and done something egregious, like eaten a huge meal, they've got like their belly so distended, we might make a change there because that is not the same physique we judged in the morning. Especially for pro qualifiers, we take another look, and at every pro show, we look at finals. So it's very important to respect yourself, stay tight, don't go off the rails. And I would even say, even if you didn't do well, my goal, if I didn't do well, was to come in tight and looking the part at finals and make them wonder how they missed me. I think food is the issue. People eat something that doesn't agree with them or eat too much. It certainly affects your placing. And sometimes we see at the pro level, people maybe holding a little water, something like that, and something changes, before finals. And it's not even extreme, but they just come back looking like maybe they've had more food or something and they look a little fuller and it looks better. That can be, make the decision. So I would say always take finals seriously and just bring your best self and know that it does matter to us.
Actually, there's a show that you judged me in Battle of Bodies. I had basically won prejudging, but I flatten out very easily. I lost my pop, second place, so it happens. Cool, thank you.
You guys are in very good hands here. These ladies not only compete and do very well, but I think it's great what you do with your athletes, and you give really good advice. So I will see all of you the rest of the day.
Thank you, Becky. All right, any other questions? Yes?
Black castor oil. My magic.
Any more questions for now? Okay, so of course we covered tanning, hair, makeup, jewelry, shoes, suits, all that good stuff. So let's say you nailed all that, you're completely put together. Now what's another big component of that stage presence that we've basically said is the main theme is your confidence on stage and how you portray yourself. Because if all of that is put together and you come on stage and you are absolutely confident the judges will sense that 100%, and that will absolutely play a factor into your placing. Confidence goes a very long way. How you hold yourself, your posture, your eye contact, the way you move, all of that's going to play a factor, because especially as you compete more and more and you get into bigger shows, pro qualifiers, pro shows, there's going to be more and more athletes that you're up against. So it's going to be even more important to stand out in that way, that you have that confidence and that X factor, because they're going to be looking for that. Because you have to think about how the judges are seeing so many athletes come across the stage, especially at, let's say, a national show, right? Everybody might start to blend together a little bit. So you want to be that person that when you come out on stage, you make the judges look at you and not want to take their eyes off of you, because you have the whole package and you have that confidence and you have that presence that catches them. And that actually comes with preparation as well. That doesn't just come out of the air. That's something you actually have to practice, is how confident you are. So of course, practicing your stage look, being prepared, making sure all of that's going to play a factor. But your mindset is also going to play a huge factor in how you're confident on stage. So how do you portray that confidence on stage? Well, one, of course, is going to be your posture, how you hold yourself. And the judges are going to be looking at you from before you even step onto that stage, let's say in your individual routine. Just like Becky was saying, if somebody's on stage here and they've seen what they need to see, and especially if there's a lot of athletes, their eyes are already going to be going to whoever the next athlete is. And if you have somebody on the side of the stage ready to come out and they're like this, just waiting, they're automatically not going to be getting a good mark so-and-so going on stage, because they don't have that confidence. But if you are on the side of the stage, you're already proud, tall, high in your pose, they're going to want to look at you and consider you for maybe that top call out of the top spots. What? Was there a question? No. Do you want to answer that? So what I'm going to actually have is for Jenny to demonstrate what not to do. So she's going to show the difference between somebody that's coming on stage that isn't confident and isn't showing what the judges will want to see, and then she'll do the opposite. So she's looking down, she's not holding herself tall, she's not highlighting her physique, she's kind of rocking into her pose, she's settling into it, but not confident, still fidgeting. She's not smiling. She didn't pay attention to where she put her hand. We actually do see that, though, so deer in headlights. So what do you remember from her? That she was kind of all over the place, right? Do you remember anything about her package or her physique or anything at all? No, right? So now this is what you want to do. Yeah, no pressure. So she's on the side of the stage, she's coming out, she's tall, she's proud, she's smiling, she's keeping her shape, hits right into that pose. Every step is accounted for, every way she moves has purpose. And that's how you capture attention. Don't do that when you finish. Don't curtsy. Less is more. So how do you get that confident, right? And it all comes with practice and believing in yourself and how you talk to yourself. So there are certain things that can make your confidence, certain things that can break your confidence. So one thing is when you're going into a show, having self-doubt the whole time, comparing yourself to other people, thinking you're never going to be ready, constantly analyzing your photos and videos, thinking, well, this isn't good enough, picking yourself apart. All that's going to do is stress you out and lower your confidence going into the stage. Don't focus on that. I know most of us will have a coach Let your coach analyze all that stuff. You just do what they say to do, practice, believe you're in good hands, and don't overanalyze yourself. Don't overanalyze who's going to be in the show with you. Don't stalk the show's social media and try to find all the other athletes and see who you're up against. That honestly is a huge confidence killer that we see when it comes to competing, because we're so immersed in social media nowadays that we tend to compare that to ourselves. But something we have to remember is it's social media. So that girl that you're up against, she is in the best lighting, she is in her best pose, she probably filtered the photo. That's not what she's going to show on stage. For all you know, she has no idea how to walk in heels, and she may not even look like that when it comes to show day or at all. She might have doctored the photo. So the more obsessed you get with social media, because we've seen that so much, the worse you're doing to yourself. So if it's something that's going to bother you or your confidence or what you're bringing to the stage, or take your tunnel vision away from just the goal of what you have to do in getting there, honestly, I tend to recommend to not even look at it going into the show. Don't go scrolling and looking at the show social media pages, other competitors, anything that's going to bring you down. Something you also have to take into consideration when you are looking at social media, maybe you're looking at pros or Miss Olympia or everything like that, and you're getting ready to do your first or second or third show, we can't be comparing ourselves to somebody that's at the very top level yet, because you're in chapter 1, they're on chapter 50, right? So we have to keep that in mind as well. They had the same stepping stones that you had. What's going to help boost your confidence is that every time you know you're just getting better and better and better. A little bit better with every show, a little bit better every time you practice. If you keep focusing on those wins every single time, your confidence is going to build going into the show. And that's what you want to focus on. Because at the end of the day, yes, there's a criteria for every division, but every body is very different. So you have to focus on your body and how your body is fitting that criteria better and better and better every single time. And that's what's going to grow your confidence into competing and as you keep going.
Something else to keep in mind, if you're doing back-to-back shows or shows within one season, you have to be prepared and prepare yourself now that you can do a show and get second or first, and then turn around and do a show the very next weekend having not changed much at all and come in fifth or sixth. Like they were saying earlier, it is about who shows up and what you're up against at that show. So don't let that tell you that you're doing worse just because you placed lower at the show. You might actually have come in looking even better at the second show where you got fifth or sixth. Your physique might look great. It's just there was 4 or 5 girls ahead of you that were that much more. So that's why getting your feedback in the moment right there from the judges is going to help you keep your confidence up, because okay, I'm not slipping backwards. I'm not doing something I'm not supposed to. My physique has actually gotten better, but I just have to keep going. Otherwise, you'll just keep doubting yourself. And the same thing too is backstage. If you're the type of person that is very outgoing and you like to meet people and you're good with that, then do that. But if you know by meeting the next girl and looking at her, it's going to get in your head and affect your confidence, then make that time about you, find your spot, sit down, put on some headphones, one earbud so you can hear your number being called. But just find what puts you in a happy place where you can protect yourself and protect your mind space and come out confident. Because if you sit there and start picking yourself apart over these other girls, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And by the time you get on stage, you're going to think, I don't even have a chance. And it's going to show in your demeanor and how you carry yourself. Been there, done that too.
Yeah. And 2 things that will really help build your confidence more is 1, practice, and 2, study. So I always recommend, especially for new competitors, if you've never been to a show before, go to a show. Watch a show. Watch how it's run. Know how it's going to be ran when it comes to your show day, so you know what to expect. The more unprepared you feel, the less confident you will feel. So if you're going into a show and you've never competed before, you're not really going to know how it's run when it comes to, what time you get on stage, how to go on stage with your classes, when you're going to be doing your individual routine, when you're going to be doing call-outs, comparisons, how you move across the stage. These are all things that, while we think might not play a big role into how we showcase ourselves, when you get to that show, you already have so much adrenaline and things running through your mind that if you're now also trying to figure out where you're supposed to be when, but have no idea how a show is going to run, that will make you feel unprepared and then drop your confidence down, right? So if you are a new competitor, please, I recommend going to 1 or 2 or 3 or as many shows as you can before you actually step on stage, so that way you feel prepared going into it and know what to expect. That's the studying part. Now, yes? Mm-hmm.
But how do you study, besides seeing how shows run, how do you study your body, what the criteria is, if you're not looking at,
So she asked how to study your body against the criteria if you're not looking at the Olympians. Well, when it comes to the criteria, sure, you'll want to look and see what their physique looks like, but also just note what the criteria is. So if it's a certain, let's say for bikini, they want to see round shoulders, they want to see hourglass, they want to see S-curve, they want to see well-developed glutes, they want to see a little bit of separation in the glutes and hamstrings, but nothing etched in, nothing too conditioned. You have a list in front of you. So something that really helps is being able to learn to look at yourself objectively, which I do understand is a very hard thing to do. But if you can take that list of things and then look at your pictures, your posing, whatever it is, compare yourself to that list. Are you checking the boxes? And that's how you can compare yourself to the criteria. And that's literally what the judges are doing.
And that list is on NPC News Online. You can see every division they have listed out exactly what they're looking for at each show. Because like Becky was saying, even if they come to a show and it's all bodybuilders up there in the bikini division, somebody has to win. And there can be confusion as to, okay, now they're looking for this much bigger. No, that's just somebody had to win at that show. So always revert back to NPC News Online. That's going to tell you exactly what they're looking for.
Did somebody say? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So the question that she asked was to basically take her through a day of the show, how it's run. Yeah. So I'm actually going to take it from when you first arrive in general, from the check-in process. So when you want to compete for a show, typically before all of this happens, you're going to register online. You'll go to your show website and you'll register for whatever classes that you want to do. So you say you want to do bikini. So whether you want to do open, novice, masters, whatever you qualify for, you register ahead of time. Then typically the night before the show day or the morning of, depending on that show, you'll show up at the venue and you'll have to do your check-in. So you'll go to the athlete check-ins, and basically all you have to do there is you go up to the table, meet with the expediters, they'll find you on the list, they're going to give you your number, usually they'll give you some goodies as well, they'll put you in your classes, and then that's taken care of and you're checked in. The next thing you'll probably do, which could be before or after it, is if you booked your tanning, hair, and makeup with the company at the venue, they'll give you an appointment time. So you might do it before check-ins, you might do it after. They'll give you that check-in time that week, so you know exactly when you have to be there. And then after that, you will typically have an athlete meeting, which is usually about an hour before the show. All of the athletes will gather in the auditorium of where the show is going to be. And then the expediters will basically explain how the show is going to be run. They'll usually have a judge in there as well to explain a few things, and they're just going to go over what the day is going to look like. And then from there, after that, the show will start, and you'll start with pre-judging. So you'll want to be backstage. I really recommend, even if it's a big show and you are in bikini and let's say it's the last class, still try to get there on time. Be backstage, find a spot backstage where you can just put a blanket on the floor, get a chair, put your feet up, relax. So that way you're there, you're prepared, you're ready, you have everything you need, you have your suit, your heels, your food, your water, everything. And then what they'll do is, as your class is coming up, the expediters will find you backstage, make sure you have plenty of time. They'll tell you pretty much, let's say 20 to 30 minutes before you have to get lined up right backstage, they'll tell you to do any of your touch-ups, which means if you need your tan fixed, if you need to get bikini bite, and then everybody has to get glaze. So they'll put on like show shine or some kind of muscle juice or glaze that's just going to give you that shine on stage. You'll get that done, and then the expediters will lead you into the lineup backstage. They'll put you in order of your numbers based on whatever your class is, and then you'll wait until your class goes on, and then it'll be time for you to go on stage. So depending on how big your class is will vary as to whether you do a comparison round with a group of people first, or if you do your individual routine first. Typically, if you have a class that is 8 people or less, you'll go on stage, you'll do your individual routine first, off stage, and then you'll come back on with the group of all, let's say however many people there are, and then the judges will compare you, put you in your placings, and then that class is done. If your class is big, however, typically more than 8 competitors, what they'll do is first they'll bring you on stage in a lineup. So they'll bring, let's say, the first group on. The judges will take a look at you. They'll have you hit your front pose and your back pose, and then exit you off stage. The next group comes on, same thing. They exit. Then you'll do your individual routine, exit the stage, or wait on the side of the stage, depending on what the expediters tell you to do. And then they'll have all of you on stage together, and they'll do call-outs, where they'll call your number. Typically, you want to be in that top first call-out. That means that they're looking at you for that first top 5 or first place spots. They'll call those numbers out. They'll compare you against each other, front pose, back pose, however many times they need you to turn you around and move you around with different people. And they'll keep doing that for however many call-outs they need per class. And then once you've done all of your classes, you do the same thing in each one, and then you'll be done for the day, or for pre-judging. And then you have finals at night where you come back. Sometimes you'll go on, you'll do your individual routine. Sometimes you'll just do a front pose, and then they'll bring your class on to the side of the stage, and then they'll give out the awards. And then after all the awards are given out, typically that's pretty much all you will do, unless they have to, 1, rejudge a class, or 2, if you win a class and there's an overall, then you'll actually do a comparison round, and they'll do live judging again at finals to get their overall winner. Once you're done with that, the overall is done, then you are done for the day, and then you stay and get your feedback. Sometimes even later. Sometimes it's midnight. It depends. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. You want to talk about? Okay, so what I was saying before with the practice. So the more you practice, the more comfortable you get, the more confident you'll get on stage. When it comes down to it, the biggest thing that's going to get you that confidence is going to be practicing. Do it over and over and over again. And then when it comes to actually practicing, something a lot of people like to do is they'll watch themselves in the mirror. And I don't recommend that, because there's no mirror on stage, and that's also not the angle the judges see you for. So in order to get confident that you can get on stage and hit your poses and transitions and everything correctly, you have to be able to do it without looking at yourself. You have to have that mind to muscle connection to know, okay, I hit that pose. So the best thing I recommend is when you're practicing, especially you're posing, put your phone, like I usually recommend about right below the knee height, popped up towards you, and then you'll record a video of you doing your posing, and then that's how you get comfortable, and you can assess each time, okay, I need to do this better, I need to fix this looks good, and then you just get used to it over and over and over again, so that way you get used to feeling where you need to pose. It's not about you looking at yourself, and no, there's nothing wrong with if you're in the gym, you're in between sets, you want to hit your pose, that's great, nothing wrong with that. But that can't be your practice for the stage. You have to get used to what it feels like on the stage. And then I also recommend finding a place to practice where there's space. Because if you're practicing in like your tiny little room, like you have a little bedroom and you're practicing in like this much space, it's not really going to reflect what you do on stage, because when you're on stage, you got to walk across, right? So if you can find somewhere to practice like that, it's better. Typically in, let's say, your gym in like one of the aerobic studios or something like that, it's going to be a good place to practice. It's also great to practice that after you finish your training or your cardio in your heels, because you'll be a little bit worn down, and you're kind of worn down on show day because you've, gone into a show. So it's kind of a similar feeling. So that's a great time to practice as well.
And like she was saying, having lots of room, the biggest mistake that I see with competitors is when I was doing the walk-in, I purposefully tucked my hips under and I walked in really fast. That's probably the biggest thing that we see. People forget to keep everything lifted, slow it down. So if you're just posing in a hallway where you're giving yourself enough room or you think the light is good, you're not giving yourself any room to move and walk and think about everything from coming in to also however you're turning and going out, okay? Because all of that is going to affect your confidence, as well as making sure that you have practice coming in from both sides. 9 times out of 10, you're going to come into a show with your left hand facing the judges. But that's not always the case. There's going to be times where you're going to come in from the other side. So if you've always practiced coming in this way and hitting your front pose, when you have to come in from this way, in your mind right now, you're thinking, no, that'll be fine, I'll get it. But no, you're going to come in and not know what to do with your feet and how to get into that front pose. So make sure that you're practicing everything from the walk to the sign off. And by recording yourself, you're going to also be able to see, okay, wait, did I let something drop? Do I see a little line there? Have I held everything lifted the whole entire time? A big one that Becky was saying, when people come into the little pose like this with bikini, they tend to let their belly hang because they're more focused on pushing the glutes back or trying to look cute, and all of this is starting to hang low. So make sure you're thinking about all of that. Not flattering flaws.
But yeah, so when you're practicing, I also recommend to get comfortable doing it in front of people, because you can do anything by yourself in your living room, right? Because you're comfortable, it's easy. But when you're on stage, you have a panel of judges in front of you judging you, and then you have an audience, right? So if you get used to just posing in your gym or have a couple of your friends sit in front of you, pose in front of people, it'll make you more comfortable on show day because you'll be used to practicing in front of people. You'll be a lot more confident because you won't be going from just being alone by yourself to all of a sudden I have to do this in front of all of these people. It won't feel so daunting that way, and you'll get used to it a lot easier. Something else I do want to mention to keep in mind as well, when you walk out on stage, let's say you are confident, you're ready to go, if you look at the judges and they're looking down or not smiling at you, please don't take that as a negative. That's typical because they're just there to judge. Sometimes they'll smile at you, sometimes they won't. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean they don't think that you deserve to place a certain way. They're just basically doing their job, assessing their physique, maybe writing something down really quickly. Maybe they're writing something from the person before you. So don't let the judges' facial expressions also influence how you feel on stage. You go out and you rock it and you still make eye contact with the judges, because remember, you're also performing for the judges and not the audience. So you want them to be your focus. So you want to look at them, pan the panel when you're going out, and be confident and have that look in your eye like, yeah, I know I got this. Don't stare them down in a weird way, obviously, but still make that eye contact so they know that you're comfortable and confident up there. Just pan them. Yeah, just pan the judges. I mean, you can glance up at the audience here and there, but mainly you're just looking at the judges, and make sure you're panning the whole panel. And of course, it's respectful too. You want to acknowledge them as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like Becky said earlier, she may have already seen you. If, you're standing on the side getting ready to come up, and so you get into the spot and you look at her and she's looking away, she's looking over here, you could be like, okay, crap, but she doesn't see me, she doesn't look at me, I guess I'm not doing it. No, she might be going, wow, okay, I saw her here, she looks great, how does she look up against that girl? Now I want to see her and her together. This is the stuff, it happens so fast that they are judging you so quickly. And when you're turned to the back, she's probably now looking at the back. Obviously, you're not seeing her. But, they know exactly what they're looking for, and they look at it quickly, and they're still panning everywhere. That can be a big confidence, killer if you let it get to you.
Something you also want to practice is timing. When you actually practice your posing, I actually tend to recommend going a little slower than you would, because when you get on stage, that adrenaline is actually going to make you go faster naturally. So if you move a little bit slower when you're practicing, that'll actually probably help you move at the correct pace once you get on stage. And a couple of tips that we tend to give our girls when it comes to posing is, when you're holding that pose, say the phrase in your head, "Thank you very much." It's a good amount of time to hit that pose. It also is a little like, "Thank you very much," like it's confident. So if you're getting into your front pose and hit, "Thank you very much," and turn, transition, back pose, "Thank you very much." Continue, "Thank you very much." It's about 2 seconds. That's a good rule of thumb to figure out the timing when it comes to how long to hold your pose, because you don't want to hold it too long, but you do need to hold it long enough that they can actually judge it. Because if you move too quickly in and out of your, let's say, front and back poses or your quarter turns, it's not long enough for them to actually look at your physique and judge what they need to judge or see what they need to see, because you haven't even hit that pose long enough. Yes, it's about 15 seconds. It's not a lot of time. Yes. It's very, very short. And that goes back to, as well, not adding too much flair. Yes, you want to have that it factor, and you want to stand out on stage, but you're not going to do it by having the best hair flip or by having the craziest transition or this 180 turn or whatever it is that you do, or 360 turn, the thing that you see sometimes, like, that's risky. Like, you don't have to do all of that stuff. The simpler it is, the better, because a judge is going to pick somebody that has a killer front pose and back pose and smooth transitions over somebody that just has this elaborate routine that, yeah, captures the audience, but she's showing too many flaws because she's moving in too many positions and showing too much of her physique that they don't even really need to see.
Another thing that they say a lot too is too much arm movements, too big. We've gotten past the touching of yourselves, thank goodness, but just make sure you're not adding that back in. But the big arm movements, we're seeing a lot where people are turning from front to back and the arms are huge and big. Keep everything little and small, close to the body. It's distracting. It takes away from the physique. And it just doesn't show like a polished, clean look that you want to portray on stage. Definitely don't.
And at the end of the day, you are there to be judged, right? But the more you think about that, the more of a confidence killer it could be as well. Think of it more as, I'm here to show all the hard work I did, and I'm proud of what I'm bringing. Just keep saying that to yourself, because you should be. I mean, we work our butts off for this, right? We all work very hard. Everybody's working as hard as the next person. That doesn't mean, well, just because I worked really hard, well, I deserve this. Well, everybody works hard, right? But if you go and you think, I'm proud of what I did, I'm bringing an amazing physique to the stage, I'm getting better every time, let that be your focus and let that keep driving you show to show. And that's also how you get longevity in the sport and you don't get burnt out from it, because you are going to lose more than you're going to win in this sport, right? There can only be one winner, and there's so many competitors. So it's something that can help us build that mental toughness if we approach it the right way. It really is such a great thing how this sport just amplifies us being able to get better and better and improve ourselves, but we have to get into it with the mindset of, that's what the focus is, and it's not, well, I'm constantly being judged and pointing my flaws out constantly.